Hello there. I'm going to give you an update about our Pulsar design system. This is used by all Jadu products and helps engineers to design responsive, accessible user interfaces for the Jadu platform. It's been a very busy year for the Pulsar team, and we've been working on a large-scale release which dramatically improves the accessibility of both new and existing features. There's far too many changes to cover in a presentation here, so I'm going to provide a whistle-stop tour of some of the more obvious visual changes that you and your colleagues may notice in the near future. So I'm going to start right at the top. Over the years, our toolbar has slowly evolved, gaining new features like notifications, the user manuals list, and the ability to switch between control centers in a multi-tenant environment. As minor as it looks, the layout of this has always been one of the most trickiest parts of the interface to make work nicely on a variety of screen sizes and browser options, mainly because we had to support a number of now obsolete Internet Explorer versions until now. The toolbar has been given a major overhaul, taking advantage of our updated browser support so that we can use a more modern responsive layout using CSS Flexbox. We've made the right-hand controls more consistent so the buttons look and act like buttons. And if you're using a small screen device, they adjust their layout to make sure you can still access all the things you need. The footer is also an element present on every page. And in CMS and XFP in particular, there's an often forgotten feature down here which, if you have admin access to this feature, gives you a list of administrators who are currently signed into the software. This lets you see what they've been doing recently, see all of their content, or send them an email. This has been given a major redesign to make it accessible and more visually interesting at the same time. The majority of interfaces in Jadu, especially CMS and XFP, are either list views or form views. We've made extensive improvements to our common list view to improve consistency. You'll notice in the old version, we've got a lot of controls dotted about the page. Things like publishing workflow, visibility, options to preview the page, run the link checker, change the order, and the primary option for creating new pages. We've dramatically simplified these types of list views. Important options moved to the top right, and less important actions made available either through the Actions drop-down or moved inside the Edit view, in this example for our document page. A good example is table filtering, where previously I had the Find a Page or Document link taking up an entire row of vertical space. You now have that within the Filter option in the Actions drop-down. We've also been working on the Edit views. These forms, which you'll be very familiar with, are used when adding or editing things within the software. Now there's two different things we're working on to improve these. The most obvious is the visual refresh. Like list views, we're removing the grey backgrounds to improve contrast. Inputs are larger and easier to tap with a pointing device, but we're also gradually rebuilding these older classic form interfaces to use the more modern technologies that we use for newer features. Form Fields has lots of changes focused around accessibility, both in the upcoming releases and still coming up as part of our continual effort to improve the experience for everyone. Forms are easier to navigate without a mouse, whether that's using a keyboard or voice control. They're easier to see thanks to improved contrast and focus styles. And we're also cutting some features that, while they look pretty, like guidance popovers, just could not provide the level of accessibility we now expect and demand from the software that we craft for you. In a previous release, we changed and improved how focusable elements were highlighted, adding a prominent orange border to things like links, inputs, and buttons. And in this release, we've gone one step further and cranked up the contrast on focus states as much as possible. This follows on from our greater understanding of the WCAG 2.1 guidelines released in June last year. People should now have a better understanding of their place within an interface, especially those people who may have vision issues. For some of the more complex interfaces, especially those where we allow you to build things like homepage layouts or forms, we often allow you to drag and drop elements in various places, but that does present an accessibility issue as it heavily relies on your ability to use a pointing device. Things like being physically able to click and hold that click and accurately drag that thing to where you need it to be. I'm going to show you two of our more complex interfaces, the Homepage Designer and the Form Designer. Homepages first. The new Settings layout improves this left-hand column, providing more space to display the available widgets, and we're still able to drag and drop these into our homepage. But if we select a widget, either by clicking the mouse or selecting with a keyboard or other assistive technology like voice control, we're presented with new options which let us choose which row we want to send that widget to. No drag and drop required. In the old Homepage Designer, we also had various controls like being able to define the width of a widget, However, the control like this was placed elsewhere in the page. And if you think about tabbing through the controls, the width control was actually backwards to the tab index. That's fine if you're visually able to see the whole page and understand that this control over here relates to this widget. Otherwise, it's all but invisible. So we've placed related controls together. If you drop a widget into a row and choose to change the width control's right here, as close to the widget as we can get. We manage focus as well for keyboard users. It's small changes like this which dramatically improve the accessibility and usability of features like this. Now the form designer. We had to solve the same problem, but also cater for the complexity of form branching. You are currently able to drag and drop page templates into your form. However, because there's a lot of potential places you can drop this page, we did try and progressively show and hide your options as you moved over the form. But it's prone to jumping about and making your life difficult. Also, like home pages, when we add in the need to perform this action without the mouse, there's no way for us to present a simple drop down like we did in home pages. There's too many options. So we took this opportunity to give the form designer a bit of a visual and functional overhaul, which you'll see coming in XFP 7. Now we are quite proud of this, and we have a short preview video to share with you. Now broadly, the form designer is the same as the one before, but the updated route diagram makes it easier to track your pages as they branch from each other and merge back together. You can easily follow a specific route all the way to the end. The page templates are still draggable, but can also be added to your form through the Add to Form action, which explodes your form and gives you all the available positions. This makes it really easy to put your new page precisely where you need it. And if you do like to drag and drop, you get an almost identical experience, but with drop targets in place of clickable buttons. And yes, all these colours do meet the accessibility requirements for visual contrast. The interactions properly manage focus and communicate their expanded and collapsed states to assistive technologies. We hope the amount of design and engineering work that's been poured into this interface will make building forms a better experience for everyone. You might have noticed that I've not mentioned CXM yet, and there's a good reason for this. The CXM team have been implementing Pulsar's accessibility changes, which introduce a large number of improvements to, well, almost everything. We've worked on an end-to-end audit of the components Pulsar provides. These are the Lego bricks that products team use to compose interfaces, whether that's the pagination on a table, the error messages for form validation, focus states, modal pop-ups. Almost everything has been placed under the accessibility microscope, and we'll continue to do this as part of our commitment to accessibility. Thank you for listening. I hope this whistle-stop tour provides a small insight into the large-scale improvements coming soon in your Jadu products.